Hey, what's up? It's Symphony here. Subscribe to my brother Mr. Creepy as Hell channel, and when you're watching his videos, make sure you stay in one piece.
My name is Cody, and I'm 38 years old. A lot of people will ask me, how come I'm not married? How come I don't have any kids? You're 38 years old, you should already be settling down. And the truth is, I have a hard time trusting, especially when it comes to women. And I really hate dating apps. It's the reason why what I'm about to share with you happened. So it happened to me about 10 years ago. I just had graduated college and I got a really high paying job. I was just on the verge of purchasing my first house. Life was extremely good for me. But there was one thing that was missing in my life, and it was a woman. So one of my friends offered me to get on a dating website and to try my hands at it to see if there's a woman that can match with me. So I got on there and I signed up for it and I put down my information. A few weeks later, I matched with a woman. Her name was Sarah, and she was very beautiful. She was a brown-skinned woman, had beautiful black hair, and a lovely smile. So I confirmed the connection and we chatted for a couple of weeks until finally we decided to meet somewhere. I wanted to meet her for coffee, but during this time there was a very huge snowstorm, and because of that we had to cancel our plans. That's when I decided to tell her if she would like, she can come over to my place and I can cook dinner and we can have a little date indoors. Now, I figured that she was most likely going to say no. Obviously, she wasn't going to come into a stranger's house that she didn't know. But surprisingly, she took me up on the offer. So, we eventually exchanged numbers and we called each other just to make sure one another was real. And indeed, she was real. I made dinner and had everything set up. At around 7 p.m., there was a knock at my door. When I opened it up, it was Sarah. She came right in and we sat down and we talked at the kitchen table. I lighted up a candle just to make it seem a bit more romantic, and we talked and got to know one another. Surprisingly, we had a lot in common. We had similar views. We really connected. 2 hours had passed and we were laughing and giggling and enjoying each other's company until my power went out. Sarah looked around and she asked me, I think maybe you should check the breakers. Yeah, good idea. You just stay where you're at. I'll be back. I grabbed a flashlight and I walked downstairs into the basement to cut on the breakers or check to see if everything was all right. When I went down and opened up the breaker box, I noticed something horrifying. The wires inside the breaker box were cut, meaning that someone intentionally caused my power to go out. I ran back upstairs to let Sarah know what was happening, and I was going to let her go home. But when I came back to the kitchen, she was gone. But instead, there was a very tall man with a mask on, standing there with an axe in his hand and scissors in the other hand. He just looked at me, and then he began to yell loud, running towards my direction. I tried to run, but he was just too fast, and he managed to knock me out in the back of my head with the back of the axe, and I fell unconscious, going in and out. As I was about to black out, I saw Sarah coming up to the man. I was confused on why she wasn't running. I thought she would be scared, but then she said something that made my heart almost stop, even though I was going in and out of consciousness. Damn, you didn't have to knock him out that hard. Okay, look, don't say anything. Just grab anything valuable and let's get the fuck out. And that was the last thing I remember before blacking out. I don't know how long I was out, but when I woke up, it was sunny outside. It stopped snowing, so I'm assuming I was out for at least about 7 to 8 hours. I got up and my head was in an immense amount of pain. I looked around my place and I noticed it was ransacked. My laptop, my TV, Everything valuable was gone. My wallet was even gone. My phone was gone. I went up and I grabbed the home phone, but that's when I realized the power was still out. I had to run to a next door neighbor's house to call 911 and to file a police report. I was ushered into the hospital because I had a concussion, and that's when I told the officers about everything. I showed them the picture of Sarah, but I didn't have a picture of the guys that she was with. Eventually, the officers came back and they had a picture of that man and Sarah, and I would come to find out that Sarah was not her real name. It turns out her name was Veronica Claymore, and she had a husband, which was the man most likely at my house, but he had a mask on. His name was Xavier. They were known for robbing people through dating apps. Usually they would go to public places like outings to restaurants and have the date. And that's when her husband would go inside the man's car, each man that Sarah or Veronica would date, and he would break in and rob them while they're on a date. And after the date ends, Sarah or Veronica would never call them back again. And that's when the men would find out that their stuff was gone. Sarah and her husband, or Veronica and her husband, must have thought they hit the jackpot when I told her she can come to my place. That was my mistake. And now I had to pay the price of letting this woman come into my place. Unfortunately, the police could never find them. For all we know, they probably changed their names and disguised it themselves. But ever since then, I have a hard time trusting dating apps. This is why I've been single for the last 10 years. It really messed me up to the point I don't want to date. I have a hard time trusting. Will I ever date again? I don't know. Only time will tell. Just be very observant and stay on guard whenever you're on these dating apps.